What do I want in my experience of living? Do I want my experience to be stable of how I feel through the day? To be able to see and feel meaning and purpose? To be able to see situations of upheaval, situations where things are unexpected, to learn from these situations. That too brings meaning with him. What makes life worthwhile? When I feel something valuable again and again. The feeling of value. But for so long, so caught up on the outside, the physical, what has become valuable is that which is measurable, visible, tangible. And yet all of that is temporary. Do I want to live from one temporary feeling to another? Uncertain if I will have those experiences depending on what the scenes and situations look like. Or do I want to go deeper than the surface? because life is much more than what is apparent. The question is it my time to see that which is deeper than the surface? Om Shanti, good evening, and welcome to this evening's spiritual sharing. As you can see, Judy is not here with us. She is actually in the spiritual headquarters, and she will join us again in a couple weeks' time. So we'll see if it is possible to have another sharing next week. So tonight's sharing was inspired by this beautiful conversation I had earlier with a soul today. And so the topic is deeper than the surface. And I won't share the details in terms of this soul's experience while she was traveling. But she was in a place where there is a lot of upheaval, a lot of uncertainty, and definitely a lot of conflict in terms of ideologies, I suppose you can say. And that's why I won't share all the details exactly where she was, because I wouldn't want us to get caught up in the surface. But it was such a beautiful conversation, and it made me really realize that when we have a chance to have an honest heart, and first and foremost with ourselves when it comes to anything that's happening in our personal lives, things that we're witnessing, with those that we know, or things that are happening on the world stage, that it is essential to be able to see things at a deeper level. For many, many reasons, actually, quality of life, yes, that was what was shared in the reflection. But in terms of at the heart of every being, we are looking for change. That's certain. Everyone is looking for change. And it is really, I would say, a collision of many different ideas that everyone has. And in this study of Raja Yoga, for those who have taken it, heard it, or maybe heard of many of the interviews or sharings through the Brahma Kumaris, it is about going deeper, really exploring a deeper sense of my identity, especially when it comes to this aspect of values, how that's carried out in actions and interactions, but even deeper than that. And so originally we were going to call this session Beyond the Limits of Labels, but because even this word labels is actually very relevant to this sharing. And so it came up a lot during this conversation I was having with this soul, is that we have so many labels that we apply on ourselves and on each other. And we have these huge assumptions of what someone will be like based on a label from perhaps maybe our own experiences, being in certain contexts, or maybe just even things we hear from others of a specific impression we're going to have, again, about others, a certain context, certain circumstances. And so, however, it does feel like many, many, many realize just how limiting labels are. And especially when it comes to our sense of self, at the end of the day, really what matters is really that experience inside of feeling light, feeling peace, feeling fulfilled contentment. And more these days, I'm just in interaction with many individuals from different walks of life and different contexts where they're facing situations, either terminal illness or they know someone with terminal illness. That's becoming increasingly so. And so, using this example, so many of them, because of feeling that deep impact, they're really re-examining their life, what choices they want to make in terms of really wanting to attain these types of experiences. And more, they're starting to realize as well how temporary everything is. But at the same time, regardless of the temporary, what they're really wanting to attain are those experiences of just feeling that they are fulfilled inside. And so, in the study of Raja Yoga, you are really learning to realize and experience that you are a spiritual being. It's not something that you just think about, it's not just something that you reflect on and ponder, but actually realize that. And so, this is a very specific word that's used. And we probably all have moments where we have realization. Of course, it's all in different contexts, and perhaps a classic example. And I knew someone actually who was a smoker. He smoked for a long, 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 long time, and he had 2 children, 3 and 5 years old. And I can't remember exactly the sequence of events, but eventually he had a heart attack and he was in the hospital. When I went to go visit him, I believe by that time he had already stopped smoking. So I remember speaking to him to see how he was doing, and he was sharing that he just did not realize he had quit actually quite a while ago. And something really woke up inside him. And whatever it was that was the catalyst for that, what was really interesting is when he shared that I cannot believe I would smoke in the presence in the house of these 2 little children. And I've known this soul for quite some time, for many years. So he never ever talked about it. And I didn't actually know he smoked. It was just an interesting conversation because he was grappling with his life after this heart attack. And so it was in the context of using this as an example, he gained insight from inside, whenever that was, that he could suddenly see something he couldn't see. And so this is what realization is about, being able to see something inside and how that deeply affects how we make our decisions, how we see ourselves, our feelings, our priorities. And so in the study of Raja Yoga, you are realizing that you are a soul. And that's like completely transforming all your reference points. And I know for those who've been joining for the interviews, Sister Judy is always emphasizing timing, timing, timing. And I've really been treasuring those conversations because I do realize it is timing. That timing plays a big part in terms of change, in terms of where we are in life. And so, because someone needs to be at a certain point in their life where what they are finding that has been supporting them or fulfilling them is no longer the case anymore. So they're searching. And so they might not have been looking prior to, or they're looking elsewhere. But this is definitely something that comes up so many times with souls, especially those who come through to the center. There's some, of course, who come because someone made them come, but there are many who come because they're searching for something and something has happened. Sometimes it's quite quiet that something happens in our life, but it really emerges some sort of insight inside. And so when it comes to realization, we do have, I guess you can say, moments of realizations through our life, and where the pull is so strong in terms of making changes, seeing decisions, how we make decisions. But this realization of a soul is so powerful. And it's very different from just imagining. Sometimes souls have that question, am I just imagining myself as a point of light? Do I just visualize? It goes much deeper. And this is where awareness is very relevant, because we're walking and moving around. We have this background awareness of ourself. And most of the time, if not all the time, it's some sort of limited awareness. It's a role that we're playing through the day. And The moment you find yourself in a completely different context, it's a different label, a different role, wear different hats. And when we have these different awarenesses, we also have different expectations, different perceptions, different filters as well of how we see things. And so this is very much connected to this aspect of Raja Yoga, because we are living through all of these different labels of how we see ourselves and others. And for myself, I work with a population, being a nurse, with those who have long-term pain. And it comes up again and again with these souls where they are challenged to feel a sense of purpose. How can they contribute within the context of their household, within their workplace, within, in a gathering of their peers? It's constantly something that comes up, and that they're having to re-examine their identity, or they don't know how to even articulate what they're feeling. And so we are living on, on the surface in terms of what we find that is supportive. And yes, individuals who retire, sometimes they have that concern as well. They were living through the career or the job that they were doing for so many years. But it's all still the same thing, is that we're living on the surface. And it's only when we lose those supports, then we don't know what to do with ourselves. And sometimes we manage and then we find something else to replace it, and that's okay. But sometimes it comes to a point, again, timing, where one is just seeking for something much deeper. And so being able to look deeper in the surface is not just even about labels of how I identify myself, but with the context of this sense of self-identity, really wanting to experience something much more about who I am. Am I this body? Do I have to wait for some sort of terminal illness? We don't. We're facing limitations all the time of how we see ourselves, how others see us in the context of conversations, what we call successes and productivity, even in terms of interactions and relationships. What we're looking for, is something beyond words. We want to feel that experience of love and belonging. We want to feel everything's okay. We want to be at peace with our past, with ourselves, with each other. Even be at peace with when there's some sort of short, just something feels short in terms of limits within ourselves. I fall short, for example, of patience, or I fall short in terms of constantly lacking trust in myself and others. And when I actually start to reflect and start to consider, I'm much more than just this body. I'm a spiritual being. I'm a being of consciousness. I actually have a deeper story, a longer story, a timeless story, actually. This journey that I have forgotten, actually. And I start to understand what that story is. And more than that, too, start to feel what my real nature as a being, a spiritual being, a soul, like really, really go there. That's what Raja Yoga is about. You start to develop this capacity to see deeper when it comes to yourself, when it comes to these conversations you have with souls where they're looking for meaning. They may not even feel like they have someone to talk to. They're looking for purpose, and they're starting to really feel you can't really find it in a job. But it's also, you then start to create this unity within yourself and also support others to be able to find that unity within themselves. But also, of course, very naturally, what happens is that you become quite introspective. And introverted, these two words are quite interesting. You hear the word introversion and extroversion. When we use the word introversion in Raja Yoga, is you look inside yourself. and to see what's going on, to understand more of who you are, the dynamics of your thinking, the dynamics of your attitudes, and this aspect we call soul consciousness, um, understanding our journey and experience who we are, that we are beings of consciousness, and seeing how attitudes are created from how we see things on a very surface level. And so what happens, you also develop this capacity that when situations happen, you look deeper, you can actually be empowered. And perhaps sometimes you make mistakes, but you're really transforming, seeing things in a way which you're not a victim. And even the feelings of injustice are actually can be quite caustic, the feelings of that against yourself or others, because it leads to a lot of a lack of forgiveness, actually. And so to be able to see things in a deeper way, it's not just about being philosophical, actually, it's about making change. And ultimately, there's so much around us that we cannot change. Yet there is a huge ripple effect and impact when I change myself in terms of how I respond and how I can be in certain situations and with others. And that really does affect others, how I respond, because everyone around us, so many feel so powerless. We're just stuck in this cycle of being affected and reacting and being affected. And we're all in that situation. So it doesn't lead to anything good, nothing beneficial for others. There's so much hurt that happens in misunderstanding. And so this aspect of looking deeper than the surface is so helpful in terms of really having a much more sense of stability inside. So we'll just have a little reflection. Looking inside isn't meant to be something that is confrontational. It's not meant to criticize myself, but it's about learning to understand who I am, what inspires me, what moves me, and also who I am in terms of what matters and my real nature. It is possible through the day as I walk and move around to be on the inside, observing myself, observing how I feel, observing any reactions, and even observing others. Observing in the sense of seeing much more than what is on the surface. Every being in this world is longing to be understood, to be seen. And even myself to be seen, to understand myself as a spiritual being. And start to reflect on what that even means to be a spiritual being, what that feels like, and how that can also affect that my reference points through the day in terms of value and success. Perhaps they can be more than that which is temporary. Perhaps they can be more where I can be more stable if I understand what will really fill me, what will really help me recharge, and what would really help me experience true peace. Om Shanti. So thank you for joining with us this evening. So we have now moved into October. So for those who are interested or wish to retake the Raj Yoga Foundations course in English, we are having it offered here at the Calgary Center, at the Inner Peace Center in the Northeast, on Fridays instead of Wednesdays. So it's 6:30 to 8 o'clock. And it begins this Friday for the 4 Fridays of October, so the 4th to the 25th. And it'll be offered on site as well as online. So please visit the Calgary website, calgary.brahmakumaris.ca. We also have this drop-in, can register if you wish, a drop-in learn about meditation session that happens at the Academy. And it's usually the last Saturday of the month. And so sometimes that's on the 5th. That's why we can't actually say it's the 4th Saturday of the month, but it is being offered on October 26th at the Academy, 12:15 to 1:30. And you can again find that on the website. These sessions are also on Eventbrite as well. We also want to let souls know to save the date for the Diwali program, the public program that's happening on Friday, November 1st at 6:30 to 8:30. We're just finalizing the registration details. And so we did send an email to those who are on the public distribution list just to save that date. But stay tuned and we will have that available on the website too for souls to register. And of course, we have all these drop-in sessions online as well through the YouTube site, but also at the Inner Peace Center, English and Hindi, and all that is available on the website for details. So thank you for joining. Om Shanti.